Hi, I'm Christine. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm here to kick off a historical romance vlog. So I am so excited. This is actually a collab video with Jess from Peace Love Books, as well as a few other booktubers as well, to try to get back into that historical romance reading mood. So I am very excited for this. I was so excited when Jess reached out to collab and do this video with her. I know there are a bunch of us all posting our videos on the same day, so I can't wait to go and watch all of theirs and see what everybody else ended up reading for their historical romance vlog. Historical romances are one of my favorite subgenres. They probably are my favorite subgenre of reading romance, so I'm very excited. I have been wanting to get back into historicals more for myself as well this year. So this was like the perfect thing to do in January to kind of kick that off. I feel like in 2020, 2021, 2022, I was reading a ton of historical romances. That's when I first got into them and read literally hundreds, like devoured the genre. And so in 2023, I still did read some, but I wasn't reading as many as I had in previous years. So I think I read like only 60 to 65 historical romances last year, which was still a lot, but also like not a lot comparable to the previous years for me. So yeah, this year I definitely want to get into more backlists, just kind of, you know, get back into them. So this video was kind of an idea to get people back in the mood for historical romances, fall back in love with the genre, all of those things. So I am so excited. I have my handy dandy planner here, which I have been using since I think November. I got it in November to do planning for December content for my channel, and it really helped me having a monthly planner to sit down and look at and track like which videos I wanted to film, video ideas, all of those things. So it is just so gorgeous. I'm obsessed with the purple and gold. I will link it in the description of this video because I got it off of Amazon and I love it. It comes in a bunch of different like patterns and colors and all of those things, and then each one is also themed. So like this is the interior for January. It is just so beautiful. Each month has like a different theme as well, so I love that. There's February, for example. Love it so much. This is not a planner video, but like I just wanted to share. And then also this is where I have my notes for this video. So in here I put like a little sheet where I can track which books I wanted to read for this vlog, because I have a ton I want to read for this vlog. I'm definitely being ambitious, and I'm probably going to save some of those for another historical romance video I'm going to be doing this month. So let's see what options I have first. Okay, so the first one that I know I'm going to be reading is Defy the Heart by Joanna Lindsey. So this is actually the book club pick for Historical Hellions, which is a book club that Jess and Samantha both do. Jess, of course, from Peace Love Books, Samantha from Books with Samantha. And then they actually reached out to me at the end of last year and asked if I wanted to join as a co-host for their book club. And so I am so very excited. I cannot wait. I love their book club. I adore both of them as people, have met them multiple times, and I just always have a fun time with them. So I'm excited to join their book club. So definitely going to be reading Defy Not the Heart by Joanna Lindsey. So that is definitely book number one. Another one that I have on my Kindle is Snowed In with a Scoundrel by Kat Sterling. So this is a new historical romance novella that just released, I think in December, and it's like a forced proximity snowed in romance. So it's kind of perfect for right now, even though we're not in the holidays anymore. It's January, it's Alaska. We still have a ton of snow outside, like snow so much that I can't even see the street from the front of my house, like feet and feet of snow. So the snowed in one definitely sounds good. I also like that it's a novella, so I feel like I'll be able to get to it easily for this vlog. And this one is a new to me author. I haven't read for this author before. And this one as well, I know that it's like, I think late 1890s to maybe early 1900s, and it's set in Seattle, which is super unique and cool. So I'm excited to check out that, check out an American historical and see how that goes. Another one I want to get to is Always to Remember by Lorraine Heath. Lorraine Heath is one of my all-time favorite historical romance queens. I love her books so much, and I have read majority of her backlist. She has like over 65 historical romances. I have read most of them. There's like very few that I still need to read. This one's actually part of like her kind of original books that she wrote that aren't really part of a series. They're all standalones, but they're all really short, and their ebook covers are a lot prettier. I do have the original covers as well, but I'm going to show the ebook cover because it is stunning. Love it. So that one I want to read. I've been meaning to read that one for a while. Lorraine Heath's books, the ones that I have left, I definitely like savor them because like I mentioned, she's my favorite and I have very few left to get to from her. So this one I definitely want to get to. It is shorter. I think it's like around 200 pages, so definitely gonna get to that one. Ooh, another one that I want to get to is Kingdom of Dreams by Judith McNaught. So this one's been on my TBR for years. I've heard so many good things about it. I know it's one of those like kind of classic historical romances that people love, kind of like in the same vein of The Secret by Julie Garwood, Lord of Scoundrels by Loretta Chase, Dreaming of You by Lisa Kleypas, the classic Derek Craven, kind of like on the same same level as those, I feel like, when people talk about it. So I do definitely want to get to that one. Like I said, it's been on my TBR for years. I had wanted to get to it in 2023. That never happened. So let's hope that this year, 2024, let's kick it off in January with me finally getting to that one. I'm very, very excited to get to it. So let's see, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 so far. So maybe like 1 or 2 more. And that should be enough for a vlog, like 5 or 6. Some of these are like really short, so I feel like I can fit them in, maybe do this on a weekend or something. All right, so then another one I want to get to is Surrendering to the Duke by Stevie Sparks. I am obsessed with the purple on this cover. This is an indie historical romance. I know that this one, I picked it up during the Stuff Your Kindle Day. It was like during the freebie sale that was going on in December, as well as in the September round as well. This one had actually been on my TBR since earlier in the summer. I know it's a Kindle Unlimited historical as well. I want to get to it. The tropes for it sound amazing. The purple cover, I've heard great things, so I definitely want to get to that one because I've been meaning to get to it for the past like half of the year, so definitely want to do that. So then I also want to throw in like a new one as well, so possibly Second Duke's the Charm by Kate Bateman. I had an arc of this one and sadly didn't get to it before the end of December when it came out, so I want to get to it now in January. This is a fresh new start, like a new series for her, so I'm excited to dive into this one. I really enjoy her historicals, so I'm excited to get to this one. Okay, so I think those are the 6 that I'm going to try to get to for this vlog. I might try to fit in Any Duke in a Storm by Amelie Howard, since that one comes out on January 9th, which is next week from when I'm filming right now or starting this vlog, so I have plenty of time before the video comes out. I want to get to that one. I do have an arc of it as well, and it's a new release, and I really enjoy Amelie's historicals. This series in particular is really good because it has great diversity in the characters as well as the locations, so I want to make that a priority as well. Okay, so those are 7 from the 13 or 14 I have on my list here. I think I'm going to save the rest for another historical romance video vlog I'm going to do later this month. I just can't wait for like more historical romance content and my own reading for the year. I'm so excited, and to see everybody else's videos. I can't wait. So yeah, we will jump into me chatting about the books once I start reading them. So it's the same night, but I'm back a little later. So I have started Defy Not the Heart by Joanna Lindsey. So like I mentioned, this one I wanted to get to first because it's the historical romance book club pick for December, but the book club live show is going to be in January just because of like the holidays and all that. So the live show is going to be January 6th, which is coming up in a couple days because right now it is Wednesday. And so that live show is happening on my channel, which will already have happened by the time you're watching this footage, but I might include some footage from the live show as well. And obviously, like, I want to talk about this book for the vlog too. So yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, this cover is one of my all-time favorite old school historical romance covers. I'm obsessed with the purples and the red, heroine's dark hair, and the gold font. Of course, Fabio looking fabulous as always. It is just such a stunning moment, and I am so excited. I love this cover so much. So let's see, I'm on page 150, which is chapter 18. I'm using like my Lila Junko trope card for Small Town Christmas. So yeah, I have gotten in about that much. I have read. Over here I've read. So I'm like not even halfway, almost halfway. So let's chat about this one. So first of all, I have read a couple Joanna Lindsey books now. This is, I think, maybe the 4th or 5th that I've read from her. My favorite so far is still Love Only Once, which was from her Mallory Anderson series, which was another historical romance book club pick, which was from a couple years ago though. That was the first book in the series. I want to get back to that series because I really enjoyed that one and all the family vibes. So this one is actually a medieval historical romance, which I really enjoy. It is around like the late 1100s, I think like 1190s range is where this one starts off in, and so far it's super interesting. So basically we're following the heroine Raina, and she is like this heiress. She owns a lot of land, she owns a castle, she owns a lot of property, and so when the story starts we find out that she is 17 and she doesn't have any family anymore. Like her father actually went off for King Richard's crusade and he passed away. He's been gone for 2 years, and then he ended up passing away on the journey as well, and her mother had passed away a couple years prior, so she is all alone. She's 17. 17, and she is the heiress now to all of these lands and properties and all of these things. So Rhaena definitely lived a more kind of like privileged life in here, not just because of the lands and the castle and like all of the estates that they owned, but because of how her family treated her as well. So like women obviously during medieval times were not treated the best, but her family was willing to give her like an education. They taught her to read and write and do like poetry and paint and sew and like do all of those things that like ladies in society did. But they also gave her the freedom to not get married like super young, because obviously in medieval times like people were getting married really young. And so even though she was betrothed from when I think she was like 3, her family had already like betrothed her to somebody. They never like forced that marriage upon her like to happen sooner than later. So it kind of just was there always in the background, but she never really paid attention to the guy. They never like made it happen. And then that guy actually ended up passing away. So she's kind of left like without any tethers. And then especially when her father passed away. So I thought this was super interesting that her dad, basically before he died, he ended up telling somebody that, yeah, like she's gonna be marrying somebody, but like he didn't name who. And so then from her side, she's been telling people like, yeah, my father already arranged it. Like it was between these 2 guys. And so like she doesn't say specifically who it is, and so it kind of gives her the freedom to be able to pick and choose when she wants. So like her father kind of helped her out in that aspect, so I thought that was really interesting. So we kind of have all of that happening in the background, and basically when the story starts for this one, Rhaena had let somebody in to her kind of castle's gates. Like there was the actual castle, and then they had different like gates within it, and so basically somebody was like outside, like a stranger, and they let him sleep inside their gates for the night. And so basically in the night he ended up sneaking in his entire army, which was like 100 men. He opened the gates for them, let them in. So they definitely like attacked and did like a whole siege on the castle. So the castle's under attack when the story starts, and Rhaena's kind of panicking, figuring out how to save everybody, because her dad, when he went off to the Crusades, he took the majority of the men, the majority of the knights, he took all the fortune and money, like he took all the things and left her with barely anything. So I think she said there's like maybe 50 men still left there for her to use or utilize or help her, and like of that maybe like 20 or 30 of them are actually like gonna be useful for this kind of like siege they're under. And so she ends up like putting on her own chainmail and getting ready to go out there as well and try to like keep them from getting into the inner walls of the castle. So around the same time we end up meeting the hero, which his name is Rainolf, and he was basically hired to go and capture Rhaena and take her to somebody who wants to marry her and basically get her castle and inheritance from her, like by marrying her. And so people are trying to like force her into a marriage, force her hand by, you know, having to marry them so they can gain all of her like money and lands and all that. So Rainolf was hired by somebody to come and grab her, but in the meantime when he gets there he sees this like fight going down. So him and his men step in and kind of save the day. She lets them stay at her castle that night and all of that, and then in the night he's like, oh yeah, like I'm actually here to abduct you, goes into her room in the middle of the night to go in, kidnap her and abduct her, take her away. So they kind of do that and are traveling away with her, and at the same time she's telling him like, how dumb are you, like you're gonna take me away for like 500 what gold or money or whatever the case, like $500 you're gonna go give me to this other guy to like gain all of my like lands and stuff that is worth way more than what he's gonna pay you to like for you to bring me to him. Like why don't we just get married? So she kind of like throws that idea and this kind of like marriage of convenience situation onto him, because she's like, you know what, in her mind she's like, I want the say in who I'm gonna marry. So it kind of goes from there. Like basically where I'm at, they've already gotten married, and I loved in here how Rhaena, she's like very strong-minded and very much like independent and can take care of herself. She like writes up her own marriage contract and she's like, make sure to put this in there, make sure that my lands go this way if we have a baby, this way if I die first, if he dies first. Like she is coordinating all the things and like just super like savvy minded with everything. So I kind of like that about her. The scene that I read, they just had their wedding night. It's super funny because she's talking about how it ended super quickly and like it's already over, like what just happened? Was that what everybody is so excited about? And like all the hype was about that ended in like 5 seconds. So it's super funny and I can't wait to see where it goes from there for her POV and the heroes as well, because she was like not impressed and didn't get the hype from how it went down. So that was super funny and I can't wait to read more of it. So far the side characters are super interesting, and it's interesting seeing the complexities of the story because this one was published I think in the 80s. Let's see. Yeah, it was published in 1989. So for that time frame, like whenever I'm reading these older historicals, like I feel like I put myself in a different headspace, mindset, because basically I'm not going to hold them to the same standards of newer historicals that are being published today that I'm reading. I feel like they're on a different level, different standards, I guess you could say. So far it's okay. Like, it's not my favorite thing ever. It's not terrible though. I'm enjoying it. I like the medieval setting and I'm excited to see where it goes from here because I kind of like their dynamic that they have. So I'm excited to see where it goes. Nothing like horrible so far. So that is all I have to report so far. So I will check in again later. So I wanted to quickly check in. So I ended up finishing Defy Not the Heart by Joanna Lindsay last night. And this one I think I'm going to give like 3.5, 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed this one and thought it was a lot of fun, especially for a medieval historical romance. Again, I just can't get over this cover. Painted my nails last night. I was inspired by the purple of this cover. And so yeah, I had a fun time with this one. I think where I left off last, they had just gotten married. I was about like halfway through and basically it kind of slowed down from there, but then it picked up again at the end and a lot of things started happening quickly. There wasn't like a whole bunch of plot to this one besides like them getting married. We also see them later on kind of like these slice of life moments where the hero is kind of reconnecting with his father, or his birth father, I should say, not the guy who raised him because he was like given up as a child. We see him kind of reconnecting with his birth father and going through the complexities of their past relationship and kind of all the hurts that he has had over the years with that. And we find out that his father has like 1,000,001 other children with like a bunch of different other ladies. Like he's basically setting up franchises all over the place. So the hero kind of learns about that. So I just thought this one was a lot of fun and entertaining. I liked some of the side characters in here. Like the heroine has this kind of chamber man, I guess you could say, like not a chambermaid, but he basically like, you know, will do her hair and get her dressed and undress her, get her bath ready, all of those things, take care of her in her bed chamber. And so his name is Theo. And I kind of liked her relationship with him because he is into guys. He actually tries to make a move on the hero at one point, the first time that he had come to the castle. And so at the time the hero was kind of appalled and like, get out of my room. But the heroine was like, shouldn't you be like a little flattered? Like he thinks your body is amazing and you're gorgeous. Like, why would you be mad about that? So I kind of liked her relationship with Theo throughout the story and some of the side characters as well. I kind of liked the handling of those characters, I should say, especially for a book written in the late 1980s. We're gonna be doing the live show for this one in a couple hours, and I can't wait to find out what Jess and Samantha and everybody else who read it all thought of it as well. It's gonna be an interesting one. So then after I finished that one, I ended up picking up Second Dukes of Charm by Kate Bateman last night. So this one actually came in at the perfect time. It came in yesterday in the mail. So this was a sweet like Christmas, New Year's gift from Probably a Love Story on Instagram, one of my friends. Love the cover for this one. I'm so excited to have a physical copy. So I've already started this one and I didn't realize the premise before going in. So I think I mentioned this is the first in a new series from Kate Bateman. It just came out in December. So in this one, we see at the very beginning of the story how the heroine is 19 and she's already a dowager duchess, which means that she has been widowed. And so we find out that her father kind of arranged or forced her into this marriage with this very much older guy. He was like in his 80s, and so he ended up actually dying on their wedding day, like before they got to the wedding night situation, which the heroine is not mad about because she did not like him, didn't want to be married to him. She was already trying to like avoid their wedding night. And so in here, yeah, he ends up passing away, and so now she finds herself a widow at 19, but she's also a virgin because they never got to their wedding night. So I didn't realize that was the premise for this one, and I am very intrigued. So then we end up catching up a couple years later, like I think it's been 2 or 3 years, and now the heroine is kind of just been living this life as a widow. And so her and her friends actually ended up opening this kind of like investigative detective type agency where they're all solving these cases and helping people out. Queen Charlotte even has come to them and wants their help with somebody who's like blackmailing her granddaughter. So that's kind of an interesting little spin. I know Kate Bateman has a ton of like spy and kind of like detective type books, so I like kind of the addition of that in this one. And I know the hero in this one has actually just found out he inherited the dukedom that the heroine is the Dowager Duchess for. And so they ended up just meeting and having a night at like a house party together where she was masked, he wasn't. So she saw his face, he doesn't know who she is. And they shared a very like passionate time where he kind of assumed she was a lady of the night, a hired woman, and found out that she wasn't. And so she's kind of like this mystery to him. And she's so experienced and worldly and amazing. And so it goes from there, which I'm sure now that she knows his identity because he wasn't wearing a mask. So I'm sure they're gonna meet. It's gonna be kind of awkward from there. So I can't wait to see what happens with that. So yeah, I'm so excited to get more into this one. Then I also ended up starting last night Snowed In with a Scoundrel by Kat Sterling. So this one is a novella. This one takes place actually in 1908 in America. So they are in Seattle, Washington. And it starts off with the hero. He is a thief. He's been like a thief for 6 years and he is on his one last mission kind of trip, and he gets snowbound or snowed in kind of in the Cascade Mountains. And so he's trying to find a way out of there during this like snowstorm, and he finds this abandoned cottage. So he ended up just going there. And then I think we're gonna find the heroine is also gonna be escaping the city, going to this cottage. I know it's like forced proximity. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here. This is a new to me author, and I'm excited to see kind of like a historical romance set outside of Europe in general. So like an American historical. It is like the early 1900s. So we will see how that one goes. All right, about to hop onto the live show for Defy Not the Heart, for the live show for Historical Hellions. So come and join me for a little bit for that. Here is my setup, have my computer here, the book, and we're going to hop into the live show. So Alright, so I'm totally sitting on the floor for this update because I'm currently redoing like one of my bookshelves. I'm bringing some of my historical romances from a shelf that is usually over there on that side of the room, and I'm moving some of them over here. So I'll show like a quick little view of that as well, but it is a nighttime, so the lighting is not the best in here. But I wanted to do a quick update because I did finish some books and I'm about to start an audiobook while I work on the rest of this shelf. So I did end up finishing Second Duke's the Charm. I don't think I've updated about it yet after I finished. So this one I think I'm going to end up giving it 3 stars actually. The beginning half I really enjoyed. I liked the whole setup of it, and I wasn't as invested in the end, especially since the heroine was like keeping secrets from the hero, and then that of course led to like some miscommunication, and I just kind of like hate when that happens. Like if they would have just talk to one another, you know, it could have like been resolved. I mean, I guess we need like a plot of a book, but I felt like they had a lot of other things going on. There was like too much plot that I wasn't super invested in. It's not my favorite from this author. I've read quite a few of her books, and I do have some others that I love more. So yeah, not a favorite, but I'm still invested enough to check out the rest of the series when they come out. So yeah, 3 stars for this one. Then the next one that I read was a novella. So it was that Snowed In with a Scoundrel by Kat Sterling. So this one was a new release, like it just dropped in December. Like I said, I had it on my Kindle. This one, I don't know if I'd recommend it honestly, because I ended up giving it 2 stars. This one too, it wasn't available on Kindle Unlimited, but I did have like ebook credits or Kindle credits to use. So like I got it for free because of my credits, but like since it's not on Kindle Unlimited, I don't know if I'd honestly recommend it. So, I mean, you can, I guess, judge for yourself. But so this one is a novella. It's like 100 pages. So it was a really quick read. I just read it last night and finished it. And I liked the idea that we were going to have an American historical in kind of like a different setting. Like this one is set in Seattle in 1908. The heroine is actually a photographer. She's from like a wealthy family in the city as well. We find out at the beginning of the story that she was recently jilted by her fiance. Her first like photography exhibit went horribly. And now she's having like artist block and having self-doubt and like wondering if she's going to be good enough, if her photos are going to be good enough, like all of those things. And so she decides to go to her family's hunting cabin that's out in the mountains for the Christmas season and just kind of like get away for the holidays. So when she shows up there, she sees like some footprints outside and realizes that there's an intruder in the cabin. And so she goes in to confront them. And that's when she finds out that it is the hero. He's in there. He's actually like naked. He was like going through the mountains and got stuck in a snowstorm. And so he went in there to like warm up and also like get out of the wet clothes. So he's in there and she runs into him, kind of confronts him. And then she realizes that she actually knows him. Like they were, I think, like kind of childhood friends at one point, or like his mom used to work for her family like as a housekeeper or something. So he was like the son of one of their kind of workers. That was the premise, and then it quickly just kind of gets into it right away, which I felt like there was just like maybe a little too many things like going on. Like it felt very much like a checklist of like have to have this happen and this happen, like let's throw this in. And so all these moments just felt a little jumbled for me. Like there was a moment where the heroine, like I said, she's a photographer. There's another moment where like they get snowed in at the cabin together for Christmas, so they're baking at one point. She's also like helping him dye his hair at one point, and like it's supposed to be like a dark color and it ends up turning purple. So there's a moment of that as well, and like nothing else really comes of these moments. There's just like a lot of little like moments happening, but they're not like cohesively melding together for the story for me. So yeah, and also the setting, like it's supposed to be like historical times, like it's 1908, but besides them mentioning that, like nothing really felt historical, if that makes sense. So yeah, I will say though, the author's note at the end I really did like actually more than the book, because it gave some history about the characters, how the author got the ideas, like that it was based on real people, and how there was this like photographer woman back in those days who did do the nude photos of herself, and her husband was her muse, and all of those things. The hero was based on somebody as well. He's like a book collector slash seller, but also he's a thief and like selling these like rare collectible editions or like first editions and things like that to like help him get money to open his own bookshop. So that's all happening as well. So yeah, 2 stars for this one, sadly, for me. All right, so I am going to grab my phone, like I said, and actually I was wondering like what I should read next, and at the perfect time my Libby audio hold came in for Never Met a Duke Like You by Amelie Howard. So I am going to get this going and get it started here and jump into that one while I finish putting my shelves together here. So yeah, this one I'm excited to check out. I know it just came out in, I think, the fall, like November of last year. And this one is an Emma / Clueless retelling from Amelie. So I'm kind of like anxiously excited for it. Like I love Emma and Clueless, both of those, like they're the same kind of retelling, but Amelie has kind of been hit and miss for me. And especially this series, like she had another book in this series that came out a couple years ago. I think it was like Always Be My Duchess, and it was a Pretty Woman retelling. And that one was kind of a miss for me. So I'm curious how this one will go. But yeah, it's an audiobook, so I will pop in my headphones and get finished on this, and I will show you like some of the shelf that I'm working on as well. Okay, so I was just filming some videos and I wanted to quickly check in again. I swear I'm always in front of my bookcases, but such is the life of me. So I did end up finishing A Never Met a Duke Like You by Amelie Howard. This one I'm sadly going to end up giving, I think, 2 stars. I really had a hard time with this one. Like I mentioned earlier, I like the setup of Emma and Clueless. So like the first bit I was interested in, but this one took a turn and I just really couldn't jive with it anymore. I really hated how long it was kind of strung out between the hero and the heroine. Like they'd have a moment, they got trapped in this attic together, they get give in to their feelings, but then they'd continuously like push each other away, act like they were surprised the other one was into them, act like they didn't know that the other one was into them. Like everybody around them knew it. I knew it. Like, come on, like let's just get together is what I felt like. Also in this one, we have like a villainous character, which I could not stand. They did super horrendous things to multiple people in the books, and they also were trying to do something against one of the characters as well. And I felt like I was just waiting for them to get their comeuppance the whole entire story, and then they don't. So that absolutely drove me wild. Instead, the villainous character gets to just slink away and get sent away into the countryside to live off their life without anything happening to them. And it just irked me so much because of the like horrendous things that they did. They literally put somebody into an asylum. That's in the content warning of the book as well at the beginning of the story, like forcing someone into an asylum. They were attacked and abused while they were there as well. They eventually die because of the things that were done to them there. The villainous character is also trying to get somebody else locked up or put away. And so I just wish something worse would have happened to them. Hate to say that about a character, but like this character, no. Like, no. So yeah, 2 stars for that one. So I've read now 4 books for the vlog. One of them I kind of like added in that wasn't a part of my TBR, but my Libby hold ended up coming in. So that's why I jumped into that one. So I have a few more still to read. We're going to see what I start next. I'm not too sure. I'm actually thinking, I know I had A Kingdom of Dreams on my TBR for this by Judith McNaught. I'm going to see if I can still get to it, but I honestly might kind of save that one for its own vlog. Like I feel like I'll have more to say about that one. And I've been editing this vlog as I go, and it's already pretty long because I talk a lot about books apparently, so who knew? So we will see what I end up getting into next. I will check in with you later. It is also my brother's birthday this weekend, so we are going to be going over to my parents' house and celebrating with all of them for the day. So we will see what I get into next. Maybe if an audio hold comes through or what I decide to pick up on my Kindle. I actually might start Surrendering to the Duke by Stevie Sparks because that might be my next Kindle read. Very excited for that one. So hopefully this one goes better than the last few have. So I'll check in later. All right, so I'm here to quickly wrap up this vlog, which was so much fun to do. So let's see, I think last I left off, I was starting Surrendering to the Duke by Stevie Sparks. I had to remember that for a second. So this one was definitely a cover purchase where I thought it was absolutely gorgeous, obsessed, still obsessed with the purple cover. I think it's stunning. This one I was a little surprised by though when I did read it, realizing that it's actually set in kind of like the times in between both world wars. So it's after World War I is when this book takes place. So like the cover definitely doesn't match up to the time period, but that's a whole other subject. But this one I ended up giving like 3.5 stars. I think I'll probably round up to 4, but it's definitely like a solid 3.5 stars for me. I expected to actually like love this one, which sadly I didn't. So I don't know, I guess it is what it is. This one's age gap, which is not so surprising with historical romances. I think it's like 10 to 12 years age gap, so kind of standard. And there's kind of like a forbidden aspect to it because the heroine is the hero's late brother's wife. So basically he saw her years and years ago at a ball, saw her across the room, was instantly like enraptured by her and made his way over across the ballroom to her. And when he got over there is when he realized and finally noticed that his brother's arm was around her waist. That's how he kind of found out years ago that they were together. So he just kind of like pined after her secretly ever since. I did love how he was absolutely into her. Like no other woman ever caught his eye. He didn't do anything else with anybody else for years and years, just because since meeting her, like she was everything to him. So he kind of just waited in the background. It kind of gave me vibes of like When He Was Wicked by Julia Quinn, which is one of my favorite books in the Bridgerton series. I love that book so much. The hero in here, his name's Michael as well. So that was kind of reminding me of that as well. But that's kind of the only thing that reminded me of it. So in here, the heroine, she is a duchess. She has a daughter and her husband actually died during the World War I. And so we catch up to her years later. Like he died when she was pregnant with a baby. And so she's been living with her in-laws / her mother-in-law and sisters-in-law since, with her daughter as well. And so they've been kind of like sad and don't want to lose anybody else. So like they kind of convince the brother / the hero to like, he's inherited the new dukedom. And so when he comes back, they're like, hey, you need to get married fast, like have some heirs. And so they also convince him like, you should marry Emmeline, the heroine, because we don't want her to leave. Like we love her daughter. We don't want them to like leave and go elsewhere. Like we want them to stay here on the estate with us. And so in the back of his mind, he's like, that's a wild idea, but also like I'm secretly like in love with her. So like that could kind of work. So he ends up going to her because they're like kind of friends. And so he goes to her with the idea and says like, yeah, like this crazy idea my mom and sister-in-law had like for us to marry as like a marriage of convenience. And so she's like, okay, well, like, I Never Married Your Brother for Love. Like, it was an arranged marriage, and like they didn't have a romantic love relationship. Like, they had a friendship, and he married her for like protection and safety and all of that, which I'll get into in a second about the entire book. But so like she's like, you know, the next time I marry, I want to marry for love. Like, I want to love the person, I want the person to love me, like romantically. So he decides to like, let's court them. Like, I'll court you and kind of prove that we should be together. So it goes from there. Very steamy. A lot of other kind of external plots happening as well, which I thought was a little too much at times. Like, I felt like I wanted to focus on one thing. The pacing kind of felt off with some stuff. And then another thing with this book, this entire book is super, super heavy on trauma and the previous sexual assault and child sexual assault. So just know that going in, definitely check content warnings. I think the author does provide some at the beginning of the story, but like, I just want to point out, it's very heavy. It is throughout the entirety of the story because it has to do with the heroine's past, and it is brought up all the time because it's something that obviously has affected her. It definitely seeps into her relationships with like her late husband, as well as the hero now as well, of things she's working through. So yeah, just know that going in. There's also like people who have kind of not believed her story and victim blamed and all of that. So just know that going in. Like I said, it's super heavy on it, and it did happen in the past, but it's mentioned throughout the entirety of the story. So just know that. And yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. Like I said, I liked parts of it. There was parts that just felt a little off to me as far as pacing wise and the whole like overall tone of the story, I guess you could say. So 3.5 stars. I have heard book 2 is actually even better, so might get to that one someday, but we shall see. And then after that, I had Any Duke and a Storm by Amelie Howard. I mentioned that I had this one. I got the arc of it actually at Steamulet, so it came with this fun little bookmark. And then I think Amelie signed this as well. And yeah, she signed it as well, which was so fun. I met her couple signings last year at Denver and at Anaheim, so that was fun. She's super sweet. So anywho, this book just came out like this past week, so January 9th. Definitely recommend reading it. It is so good. It's the 4th book in the Daring Duke series. I gave this one, I rounded up to 5 stars, but I gave it 4.5 stars just because the length, like that was my only issue, is the length felt a little long at times. It is 400 pages and it felt it every now and then, even though I loved it. Like, besides the length, that's the only thing that I could see that I had issues with. Like, it was so good though. So actually on the back of this bookmark she has, so this has the rest of the Daring Duke series. So we have The Princess Stakes, Rules for Heiresses, and is it The Duke in Question? Trying to read this like backwards. Yeah. These are the 3 books, and now this is book 4 in the Daring Duke series. I highly recommend this series from her. This is actually one of my favorites from her. Like, The Beast of Beswick is one of my favorite books from her, and then this series is probably my next favorites of hers. Like, I love them. First of all, the diversity in characters. We have so many different ethnicities being represented and cultures. We also have like the diversity in settings, like for historicals, even though these look like ballroom scenes, like they're all set kind of high seas adventures through the Caribbean, like all sorts of different places besides like just England, you know, Regency times. This one as well is a pirate's romance, and it was so much fun. Basically here the heroine is a spy, which spy romances are kind of hit and miss for me, but I found that Amelie's really work for me because the previous book in the series was also a spy one that I loved. So like this series just keeps getting better and better. Like, I've rated them better each time, and this is easily now my new favorite in the series. So let me compose my thoughts. I'm like all over the place today. So this book, the heroine, like I mentioned, she's a spy, and she has been deep undercover for years, posing as this badass pirate captain, which she is badass. Like, she's not posing as that part. Like, she is a badass heroine. I love her. So anyway, she's been posing as this pirate captain, and she's been trying to like infiltrate this kind of smuggling ring that's happening on the seas. And so she's trying to get into that. So she's been like deep undercover as a pirate captain for years. So there's piracy, there is high stakes, like tons of smuggling, there's secrets, the whole spy action. The heroine, like besides being an international spy, she's also a countess. The heroine here is a French duke, and it is just so good. Like, I had so much fun with this one. High seas, high adventure, high stakes, like all the danger, adventure, espionage you could imagine is in this, and it's just a really fun time. I also like to hear how the heroine, like there's a little bit of like dom sub relationships going on, sort of like low key, but the heroine is the one who like takes charge and all of that, and I loved it. There's like some good boy moments in here. This was just so fun. Like, definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't. This is a new release, just came out on January 9th. Highly recommend. Probably my new favorite of like the recent historical romances that have released in the last month or two. Like, this one is definitely it. So I definitely recommend. I gave it 4.5/5 stars. The audio as well is already on Hoopla, so check that out as well if you haven't. So looking back at this vlog, it wasn't like super successful, but it ended on a successful note, as well as I just love historicals. Like, I'm always going to read them. I'm going to continue reading them, even though I had some duds in here. Like, that's just par for the course with reading. And I'm excited for more to come. I'm actually ending this vlog just because it has to go up this weekend. So I need to end it here. It's been a week of reading historicals, and like, I'm going to continue on reading historicals. Like, I'm actually about to dive back into a reread of one of my favorite all-time Lorraine Heath series. I cannot wait. The Scoundrels of St. James series. I'm obsessed with that series. One of my best friends on Instagram is actually reading them for the first time right now. We were chatting and I was like, oh my God, am I about to reread all of these? Because, ugh, I just love them so much and I can't wait. I love that series. I haven't read it in like 3 years, so can't wait. I have reread some of them in the past and I can't wait to get back into them. So, I mean, I'm going to still be reading historicals. So like I was saying in this vlog, like even if some of the books in the vlog weren't hits for me, like historical romances are always a hit for me in general. So I'm going to keep doing them. I just posted my Elizabeth Hoyt author guide, which breaks down all her books, all her series, shows all the step backs. Like, I've read all of them. I review all of them. I love doing author guides. I've done a few for historical romance authors. So if you haven't checked out that, definitely do that. I loved making it. They are a lot of work, a lot of time, but I love them when they're done afterwards to like look back on myself as well. So check that out. I have that up. I have a couple more like historical romance things coming later this month of like new releases and arc reads and all the things. Like, I love historicals. You'll always get that content here. So yeah, I think I set out to read 6 or 7 books, ended up reading 6, switched out 1 or 2 of them. So yeah, that's all I have. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you have read any historicals lately that you've loved, whether they're new or old or whatever, let me know. I would love to get some more recs. Definitely check out all the other creators who are doing this vlog as well this weekend. I can't wait to watch everybody's videos and see what they read, see what they loved, all the things. So yeah, let me know all the things about your current reads or historical reads. If you've read any of the ones that I talked about, I'd love to share thoughts about what you thought about them. If you want to leave me an emoji instead to let me know you watched this, you can leave me something like yellow or gold, maybe like the sparkly golden stars for this beautiful cover, which was my favorite read of the vlog. So yeah, if you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I'll see you in my next one.